This conference will now be recorded.
All right, this is the week 3 critique looking at Angela's work. You got swing set snacks and you decide to use a rainbow, which is really hard to work with, but you did a great job with it.
Thank you.
Um, I love the blue background. It sort of, echoes the sky, which kind of works with everything else.
Right,
Uh,
that was my intention.
yeah, so one thing that might even enhance it more, you could do a gradient. What if you put a touch of gradient, like not something really strong, but just a little bit of a darker blue or something? I would play with that, just see if you like that.
Okay, just on the letterhead?
And this background, wherever
Oh, the
it's
whole
used.
thing. Okay, sure.
Your logo, I can sort of read it. The legibility is a little difficult. If there's any way you can enhance that, that would be good.
Okay.
But you're off and running. This is good. This barcode, is that the one that's in the template?
Yeah.
Yikes. I just turned that off. It looks terrible.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you don't have to have that on.
Okay.
It's more there for like postal regulations, like,
Okay.
so, but good job.
Oh, thank you.
All right, moving on. Looking to look at Avery. So Avery, you got cactus cookies. Your logo is kind of looks like a mosaic steer skull. Um, I think your color palette is good and working well. The one thing I would say is making the C's all in that color, they disappear because the value difference between them and the background is not enough. So you would either have to darken them up or lighten the background. I'd probably darken those up so that they're a little more legible because it's really hard to read right now. You also haven't quite sort of conquered the logo lockup. So once you get this established, it's okay here on the business card, but you'd want to have it at the top of the letterhead. You'd want to have it on the envelope as well. Right now, it feels like you're using the steer head and then the type sort of comes and goes, and that's not a great way to do a logo. Also, I would not do this ghosted back icon in the letterhead. It just sort of muddies things up. I think you have a good color palette, well established. If you can take some of these geometric elements and maybe create a pattern or something to use on the side or something like that, that might be good. I feel like this color is a little dark for letterhead, but it still is legible. Your letter looks a little large too. You make that type smaller. But overall, it's looking pretty good. Next, Stephen. All right, so Olympic Coffee, you did a really thorough logo exploration. I think the one you ended up with here works quite well. Color palette wise, you don't have to use all the colors in the logo, but you can use the other colors elsewhere, like maybe the background on the paper here. Keep it light. I would do something else with, you haven't finished the envelope, obviously, but you don't want that gray default background. So consider as you fill in the rest of the elements, like are there secondary things you can use, like a texture or a color that would fill in the paper color everywhere. But your logo is looking very good moving forward. That's good. These little red plus signs mean that there's a text frame here that has overflow text. And it really only shows up when you do a screenshot. So, you can export a JPEG from InDesign. So everyone knows that. And that would be preferable. Yeah, I think you could even create a pattern brush with the leaves there and maybe turn that into something interesting. All right, Asriel, Tortuga. So for the color, again, you haven't quite figured out your lockup exactly right. So this is kind of it, but it's not here and it's different over here. So you want to sort of figure that out just to show everybody. This is my guide that I provided to give you how your icon and logo type should look, and basically the size considerations. So you want your logo type to be strong. Your icon is really the eye-catching element, but it doesn't have to be so big. Maybe a little bigger than this, but and you can create two lockups, a version that's for vertical and version that's for horizontal, and then use it appropriately. But once you get your lockup set, you don't want to really change it that much. So you need to establish that. I do like this pattern here. I think your assign color is the violet color. You're using this very light yellow for the icon. So what you have there is two different, highly different values, very dark and very light for one logo. That makes it really difficult to work with. So what you can do is work on your icon more, maybe create an outline or a shape around it that is darker so that everything's darker or everything's lighter. Since you're assigned this color, you're probably not going to go lighter, but that's the issue that you have to work on. Other than that, I like your pattern, and you're starting to get a feel for it. So I think when you pull those things together, it'll work out. All right, Professor Penna's class. Let's see, starting with, wow, okay, Adriana. Adriana, you did a fantastic exploration. Now, I just want to re-emphasize this because a lot of people get confused. You do not have to use one of these color relationships as your palette. Your palette is totally up to you aside from the assigned color. This is just a guide to sort of get you started. So you may say, I like tetrad, I'm take green out, put something else in, or you can ignore all this and do your own thing. I just want to make sure everyone understands that. Your logo is beautiful, well crafted, a little bit complicated, and kind of tough to work with, and I think that's why you're having some issues. I do really love the color version here. I think the word chocolate could be maybe even in a different font. Maybe Black Sea, you could a little more hierarchy. Black Sea could be a little bigger and bolder. Chocolate maybe even smaller. This sort of monochromatic version is nice too, but I love the colors you're using in this ocean icon. I would use those colors here on the business card. Another sort of preference of mine is I would not use whatever you're using for logo type. I wouldn't use that elsewhere. Just let it be the logo type sort of special, and then something else elsewhere. But this is all well designed and very neat. Again, I would use a color version of the ocean there. I think the tough issue you're having here is partly because the logo, the configuration is tough to work with. Not impossible, but difficult. You can put the return address on the back flap. That is totally acceptable. And then just let your logo be there. Everything's looking very monochromatic. You have great color sense and beautiful color logo, but it's not being used everywhere. So make sure you're using that. The class is called Color Theory. So you're getting some suggestions here. That's good. I'm glad everyone's conversing. So as you pull it together, more color, put the address on the back flap. And you know, if I went back to re-engineer everything, I would probably simplify this logo. Maybe one flower in the ocean instead of two. Consolidate it, make it the icon, if it's like I've showed you in my Illustrator example, if it's in a circle or square with some logo type, that works quite well. So, but you're clearly got a good design sense, good color sense, so I think that you're going to get there. All right, next up is Tanya. So Layla's Fair Trade Coffee. So this has a lot of the same issues. You've got a super complex tree, map of Africa, cup, beans. There's like a lot of elements here. If I would simplify this, I'd probably ditch the map, consolidate, make the tree a lot simpler, chunkier, and the cup smaller. You probably don't even need the coffee beans. And then work on your type and configure it. This is how it could be. Layla's really big because that's the brand. Fair Trade Coffee, small because that's the category. So if you reconsider that, and again, look at this example, you'll find you have something way easier to work with when you get into all these elements. This is a good color palette, feels right. But again, just trying to get the logo onto the page, and a photo of coffee beans, maybe not the most branded type thing. Foliage from the tree maybe could be a thing that you could add in as a secondary element. Change the paper color from gray to something else. No gray, that doesn't work with your brand. So I hope that's helpful. All right, Aaron, Brainiac Coffee. This almost looks like a sort of digital coffee beans. This really does fit with the brand quite well. I like your logo idea. Couple things I would say about the logo type. I would make this word Brainiac bigger and bolder and ditch the stroke. I know you have this green. Actually, you could either probably make the stroke bigger and put it behind it so that you have something to set it off in the background, because that green I know doesn't stand out well from white. And I'm sure that's why you're doing that. But I would encourage you to figure out a different solution there. This needs more space. It's too tight right there. Your pattern's good. I do like this background color. That works well. Coffee rings are cute. Yeah, you've embraced this brand, and I think you're on your way. So that's looking pretty good. All right, Caitlin, Boise beef jerky. So complementary is fine, but I would add additional parts to your complementary scheme. So you can have a tint, a shade. You don't have to stick with just one relationship, and you need to have 5 colors. So that will probably help you flesh this out. You need some more work, makes a letter look more like a letter. Now it's just a huge block of type. Give it some margins, look at some letters. You understand the brand, I can tell by who you're sending that to. And you need that sort of secondary element, texture, pattern. Is there wood texture in the background? Is there stone? Do you have a big sky in the background or something like that? So think about those secondary elements to help you brand this. For section 3, no one has turned anything yet. I hope you guys get this stuff in. I'll be back on tomorrow at noon to see how everybody's doing. And hopefully that helps you all. Can't wait to see what you do.